Good evening, everyone. Welcome today with us in our webinar. We're hosting, as School of Business at AUC, we're hosting PR Smith, the international TED speaker. He's a writer of 6 books in marketing, and he's an advisor and consultant for several companies and businesses. He has more than 40 years experience in the international market. So we're glad to have you with us tonight. Enjoy the learning presentation, and then we will, after we finish for half an hour, we'll have 15 minutes for any questions, open discussion with PR. And now I leave the floor to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Amira. And also, if I say thank you really to Professor Mohammed Kesaba, who's kind of started this whole process of me working with the American University of Cairo. So thank you.
Thank you. It's our pleasure having you.
Okay. And also thank you to everybody who's attending for being able to speak in English. It's fantastic. I live in London, and so many people have only got one language. It's pathetic. I can speak Irish, but that's of no use to anybody really. So I'm going to speak English, and thank you for allowing me to speak English to you. So it's a great privilege to be talking to you out in Cairo and wherever else you are around Egypt. So this is going to be a busy 30 minutes, and we'll have about 15 minutes at the end. So I'll do sort of a 60-second intro, if you like, just to kind of to supplement what you said there, Mira. So I write books about marketing, a range of different ones. I also advise companies that use my SOSTAC planning system, and also I run the Great Sportsmanship Program, which is a not-for-profit edutainment program designed to change the world, no less, with short stories about sportsmanship. In fact, I was looking at it last night and I saw there is a nice little Egyptian story in there as well. So if you go to greatsportsmanship.org, that's just for leisure and entertainment and to harmonize the world, essentially. So what we're going to be talking about is marketing in a post-COVID environment. And, please God, we will see the end of the COVID, maybe 9 months, I don't know. But there will be a time when it's done. And so what's it going to look like? What's marketing going to be like in this environment? And I'm going to share 3 tips that I would generalize and say, well, look, here's 3 things you should be thinking about doing as we come out of the COVID environment. So that's the kind of structure. But before we get into that, I thought it would be good to give you 3 minutes of what is a SOSTAC plan. So can I just ask you to hit your virtual hands up and tell me right now, how many of you have actually are familiar with SOSTAC planning framework? If you are familiar, can you please put your hand up so that Amira can see how many people have got their hands up? Okay, we've got some hands up. Just give you another.
We have 2.
2. Okay. Any more hands up? Okay. So about 2 out of the 20, or maybe the others can't find the hands. 3 out of 20. Okay. Okay. So most are not familiar. Okay, that's fine. So here we go. In 3 minutes, I'm going to show you how to write the perfect plan, and you can use this plan for a business plan, for a marketing plan, a digital marketing plan, a post-COVID plan, a personal plan, even wedding plans and security plans and all sorts of plans use the SOSTAC planning framework that I designed back in the 1990s, and have been perfecting it and refining it and improving it ever since. And it's now been voted in the top 3 business models in the world by the Chartered Institute of Marketing Centenary Poll. And it's used by blue chips like LinkedIn have adopted a SOSTAC planning framework for all their marketers in Europe and EMEA. KPMG Digital HQ flew me over to Toronto to get their team on board, and companies all around the world, and startups, disruptors, small to medium enterprises, blue chips, they love using SOSTAC because of its simplicity. So excuse me, here you are within 3 minutes. Here is how to write the perfect digital marketing plan. So if we start with situation analysis, that's all about where are you now, and we analyze your customers, your competitors, your own company's strengths and weaknesses, and the external variables such as the pest factors, political, economic, social, and technological factors. And that's the biggest part of your plan, is the situation analysis. You have to do it nice and deep, and then having established where are you now, the situation analysis, you then move on to objectives. Where are you going? That's typically your mission, your vision, and your KPIs, those key performance indicators, everything from sales to market share, to inquiries, to visitors, that sort of thing. So once you know where you are and then where you're going, then you come to strategy, which is how do you get there? So strategy is the shortest piece of your plan. It's generally the weakest piece of most plans that I see. In fact, many plans don't even have strategy. They just go straight into tactics. So strategy, the shortest part, but the weakest part, yet it's the most important part because the strategy drives all your tactics. So that's strategy. And then tactics are the details of strategy. And that by that, I mean the marketing mix. You all heard of the marketing mix, your 7Ps, 9Ps, whatever you want to call it, product, price, place, promotion, people, processes, and physical evidence. And there's many other ways of looking at the marketing mix, but that's the detail of strategy. And then actions are the details of tactics. And what does that mean? That means how do you ensure that your brilliant plan, say you've done a great situation analysis, lovely objectives, strategy and tactics, really brilliant stuff. You then hand it on and say, okay, team, let's do it. And it doesn't get done. It falls over. It fails. So a lot of plans fail because they haven't got this section called actions in there. And actions means how do we ensure that the tactics are executed with excellence, with passion and excellence. So how we ensure that is a thing called internal marketing, which is all about training, motivating, and communicating with your internal team. So that's how you get the best out of and make sure everybody's able to execute the tactics. And finally, control is how do we know we're getting there? So that's about measurement and metrics. So what do you need to measure? List this in your plan. What do you need to measure monthly, weekly, daily, etc. Sometimes some of these things cost money, some of them don't, but you list them out. Where are you going to get the information? Who's going to collect it? How often? That sort of thing. And that then feeds into the next situation analysis, which lets you build even better objectives. And so you can see it's a cyclical, agile planning system. So there you have it. So now what we're going to do is, that's how to write the perfect plan in 3 minutes. You can see that again, if you want to see it again, you can see it on SOSTAC.org. Just pop over to the website, SOSTAC.org. You'll see it there again, that three minutes video explaining all. What I'm going to do now is lift out, and we're going to look at the situation analysis. Now, we're just going to focus, we're not going to look at any of the customer analysis, competitor analysis, company analysis, or trend. Well, we look at the trends, but I haven't time to do all these in this short session. So what we're going to look at in particular are the external analysis stuff. So that's the stuff outside that you can't control, that's outside your business. So you've heard of pest analysis, or PESTEL or PESTED. There's variations of it, but this is the simplest one: political, economic, social, and technological developments that affect your marketplace. So what we're going to do now is have a look at some of the situation analysis, i.e. the external stuff. And what we find is if you do a really good, deep situation analysis, it actually reveals really useful information to you that informs the kind of decisions you want to make about setting objectives, or in particular, developing your strategy. So this will inform your strategy by doing a good, deep analysis here. Now, I'm only going to devote about 20 minutes to this, and then 10 minutes to 3 tips that'll come out of it. But what you're going to see is that by doing a situation analysis, or some of the answers for your subsequent strategy and subsequent tactics start to jump out. And you'll see that in the form of the tips that I'm going to show you. So you could probably guess what the 3 tips are when we've talked about the analysis, because the analysis reveals stuff that you've got to address. Okay, so here we go. We're going to focus on the externals. So if we start with situation analysis and political. So, governments are busily making policies right now about restrictions of travel and restrictions of work, which means companies to survive have to be very flexible. Flexibility is really important. We'll get to that in the tips later on. But so COVID restrictions of work and travel are affecting the supply chain. So, there's all sorts of obstacles occurring out there that we can't control. Then again, external to us, we've got international trade deals going on. And some international trade deals can be dreadful, can stop you from doing business, and some can be wonderful. They can open up borders and make trading overseas very easy. But they're not in your control, these things. So, whether it's GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which is designed originally, to ensure less barriers and to allow more trading. So the World Trade Organization kind of took over the GATT and kind of runs it. And now we've got TRIPS, trade-related intellectual property, TRIMS, trade-related investment, So the World Trade Organization now is a forum for members to negotiate reductions in trade barriers. We want to get rid of the barriers where possible, but we don't have that much control. Governments do, but us poor businesses don't, by and large. Now we can lobby and try to influence, but by and large, these are outside our control. Now, sometimes a government trade deal will come in and just stop you doing business. So companies in Britain are really, some of them are about to suffer already. Some of them are starting to go out of business. Some fishing companies already going out of business because of Brexit. That is Britain's exit of Europe. Now that was a big political campaign. There was a group in Britain that wanted to get out, and there was the other group that wanted to stay in. And if you really want to be shocked, and I encourage you to be shocked, because as marketers, you really do have to understand this stuff. There is a TED Talk that's on my blog, which is prsmith.org, and just click the blog button or put the whole address in there. And you'll find this post of mine, which is a TED Talk by a wonderful Guardian journalist, Carol Cadwallader. It's an unusual Welsh name, Cadwallader, I believe it is. She's a wonderful journalist, and she does this TED Talk, and it's in my post. You can see it or go to TED. But she reveals, how illegal ads and misuse of data through social media platforms actually helped Brexit win. It's really shocking stuff. You need to see it. Equally, you'll find another post there about Cambridge Analytica, the data analysis company that used Facebook data, et cetera, and how it actually helped Donald Trump win. Now that's just a 6-minute video, or 4-minute video by BBC, which is really worth a watch. And then we have Trump trade wars, not just Brexit, but trade wars with China or wherever else. And they're not fully in place yet, but they could occur. Now, Donald Trump just lost the election, but it seemed like there were trade wars on the horizon, which affect businesses, and you have no control over it. Again, if you want to see how Donald Trump actually won when he won his first election back in 2016, I've written several blog posts. Again, you can analyze all the stuff, how he used social media, etc., etc. So it's full analysis if you want to see that stuff. But the point I'm making is that governments and political groups can make policies that can destroy your business or enhance your business. We don't have control over these things. So I do encourage you to go and have a look. And when you get the document, which will be a summary of the talk tomorrow, I'll attach links to all of these so that you can go and see them yourselves. So we know political groups and barriers to trade are important, equally borders. Equally, the issue we have around the world with refugees now, it's supposedly an economic threat. I don't see it as that. I know it's a very serious issue, but I was shown this beautiful sculpture by Bruno Castellano, and the idea of it is that refugees, as they travel around the world, suffer and leave a little bit of themselves behind every time they get on that boat or leave their home or take that one bag with them, if they're lucky to have one bag with them. And they leave a little bit of their heart and soul behind them and take an adventure into the unknown, a high-risk one for most of them. So my heart goes out to refugees, and we do see some people applauding them and nurturing their skills and talent. And I saw a great quote by a guy called Matthew Syed, who wrote this Rebel Ideas. It's a powerful book, and I recommend you have a look at it because it talks about diversity, the importance of diversity, and how diversity, actually companies with diverse employees outperform those that don't, and governments that have diverse cabinets outperform, etc., etc., etc. So it's a wonderful book. There's a great quote by Albert Einstein who says, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its whole life believing it's stupid. And poor old refugees kind of suffer some of that, I feel. So they need help because there's lots of talent out there. Steve Jobs of Apple, his father came from Syria, no less. And there's a long history. Mo Farah, a gold medal Olympic winner for Britain, a hero of Britain. He came out of, he's a refugee who came a dangerous and risky route and had difficulties growing up as a child. But, we've got refugees all over the world who are very, very successful people, driven by using their skills and their backgrounds. And so, although we don't have control over the barriers to trade and borders and refugee movements and so on and so forth, I would urge you to think about using the diversity as a powerful tool, if you can, in your organizations. Diversity is a good thing, and it opens people's minds to creative thinking, something we're going to be talking about later on. So that's politics. We don't have any control over it. It affects your business. And then economic forces affect the economy. COVID's affecting your economy. COVID's affecting everybody's economy. The workforce, supply chains, jobs are under threat. Jobs are being lost. But I want to move beyond COVID affecting the economy. I want to now show you something that's kind of interesting. And this is the S&P index. There was an analysis done. The S&P index is essentially America's best corporations. And the S&P index over 10 years grew by 110%. Whoopie-doo basil, as they say. And firms of endearment, those are companies that have real sense of purpose and passion. They're very clear about their purpose or the reason they exist, and they've got passion and purpose. That over the same 10 years, they grew by over 1,000%. So what we can take from this is that if you've got real passion and purpose in your business, you will outperform the others that don't have the same passion and purpose. Now, that research was done in 2014, a little old, I guess you might say. But here's a quote now from about purpose-driven companies, and it was written by consultants, Western consultants that you know of. That is, essentially, they said that purpose-driven companies witness higher market share gains and grow 3 times faster, i.e. 300% greater growth. Now, that's Deloitte in 2019. So they're saying again, purpose and passion, companies that have that grow better, faster, quicker, and are more successful, basically. Now, this is followed by an extraordinary quote by arguably the world's most influential financial person. And this is Larry Fink. He's the CEO of BlackRock, and they're an asset management company that manage $6 trillion. By the way, if you're ever dealing in trillions, go to your dictionary and clarify the definition, because as with billion, trillion also has 2 definitions. Both trillion and billion have 2 definitions. There's an American and British version, and there's others. So be very careful if you're signing contracts. But anyways, Larry Fink, the CEO of the world's biggest asset management, said this in 2019, and it kind of changed people's thinking. And his current letter that's on the BlackRock website is really worth a read. But this is what he said back in 2019. He said, purpose is not the sole pursuit of profits. So businesses aren't just in business for profits, although we thought we were for a long time. That's not it. So purpose is not the sole pursuit of profits, but the animating force for achieving them. Now, this is profound. This is saying purpose doesn't drive everything. So another nice quote that we've come across more recently is, well, the idea that firms should primarily serve shareholders, that's old-fashioned and out of date. So those CEOs, chairmen, and boards that believe that, they're just out of date. This is wrong. And the Business Roundtable in the USA, which is about 180 CEOs, signed a statement to the effect that in 2019, they said businesses should be run for the benefit of all stakeholders. So stakeholders being your employees, your community, your customers, your investors, your regulators, all the different stakeholders that you deal with. And this was picked up by the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, the chairman. And he said, the World Economic Forum is releasing a new Davos Manifesto, which states that, here we go, companies should pay their fair share of taxes, here, show zero tolerance for corruption, uphold human rights throughout their global chains, and advocate for a competitive level playing field. So this is the World Economic Forum saying stakeholder capitalism is here. Stakeholder capitalism is here. So this is what he said. Subsequently, we should seize this moment to ensure that stakeholder capitalism remains the new dominant model. Now, this is profound stuff, and this is going to affect business after business. So it's not just shareholders and investors. Us as marketers need to help. We need to help all our stakeholders. Now, remember this also, that when we're talking about economics, The Economist back in April 2017 made this announcement that the world's most valuable resource was no longer oil, but it was data. So these are 2 profound shifts occurring in the world that we live in, the world that we inhabit. Now, moving on from economics and stakeholder capitalism, let's move on to social. And let's look at the way customers process information. We've become device junkies. We've got shorter attention spans, shorter than a goldfish, actually. We're time poor because we devote so much time to our mobiles and so much amazing stuff that's on there, but also other reasons. If you live in cities, we tend to be busier. We're visually driven. We allow convenience to triumph over trust. That's a pretty shocking one. Let's just test that right now. Amira, can we just ask people to put your hands up and let us know if you use Facebook? Okay, hands up, any of you that use Facebook. What are the numbers like? Amira, there's a few hands going up. That's good.
Yes, I will check it.
Okay.
We're almost 10 till now.
Yeah. So there's plenty of Facebook users there.
12 out of 27, 28 till now.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this second question then is just for those Facebook users now. This question for you is, how many of you trust Facebook? Put your hand up if you trust Facebook. How many of you trust Facebook? Put your hand up if you trust Facebook.
Okay. Only 5.
Right. It's dropping.
4.
How many of you trust Facebook? Okay. So there, what was the number we had? Oh, 3 now. 2. Okay. Only 2 out of how many trust? How many?
12 out of 12 or 14.
1. We're down to 1. None. There we go. None. So we've got people, half the group using Facebook, yet nobody trusts it. So half the people are giving their data, precious data, away and being used. Now, I'm going to make a warning about this to you later on, but this proves the point that convenience triumphs over trust. And that's a state of affairs, but that's the way it is. And ratings and reviews are incredibly important in our lives, personal and commercial. So we process information and we're affected by these changes in trends. Remember these. Now, another social that's emerged is customer state of mind. So we looked at customers' process of information. Now we're looking at state of mind. And customers are suffering from the fear of death. I guess we all have maybe a fear of death, but people working in the front line are afraid that COVID is going to kill them. And people who are sheltering are afraid that COVID could kill them. Not everybody, but a lot of people unconsciously, some consciously, others unconsciously, have a fear of this thing called COVID. And others fear job losses. Is their job safe? Will they have a job to go back to? Others, and this is from Larry Fink now, the BlackRock CEO. Larry Fink said that around the world, there's a common fear of inadequate pensions. And I was never aware of this, but none of us have had to face this yet. But, will our private pensions be sufficient to support us when we come to retire in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is? Now, as you move through the years, that becomes a little bit more of a worry, conscious or unconscious. Other fears that we have, our younger folks have fears about social media. Well, that they worry about all the above, but they also worry about, do they get enough likes? If they don't get enough likes, they post something and people don't say, oh, that's great, or you're great. Suddenly they think, oh, everybody hates me. It's a real worry that people are suffering from. So there's all sorts of fears out there. And there's anger and rage, lots of, because people are not allowed to go out and socialize, not allowed to go out and play, not allowed to go out and have a coffee or have a beer, whatever they want to do, they're not allowed to do. But also there's a corporate rage. And there is anger deep within a lot of people, and they're enraged by, and sometimes they don't even know what they're enraged by, but they're angry. Look at the Trump followers. A lot of them are enraged and they don't really know why. Is it a blue collar thing? Is it a nobody's listening to them anymore? Is it an anti-establishment thing? People say corporations are not paying their taxes by and large. So, there's a kind of pent-up rage about that as well for those that understand that. And others are in a kind of state of shock, like, they've been furloughed or told to stay at home or don't do work, or, the world's a different place right now, and they're kind of really quite worried. And there's other people, God love them, who need to go to hospitals and have treatment for other things, and they can't get into the hospitals. So there's a lot of people worried out there, and there's sadness out there. People are losing family members, and there's loneliness. Now, we've always had loneliness, but I think there's more of it now that we have to live on our own and isolate ourselves. And so the state of mind of our customers will be affected, say, in 3, 6, 9 months' time when we come out the other side. There is a big worry here in Britain, and I'm sure in Egypt and elsewhere, that young people, school children, are going to suffer from this whole pandemic thing. Mentally, there's going to be issues. So definitely we need to be mindful of these issues. Okay, so people are having a tough time. Now, by way of understanding the way process information, I urge you to see this documentary. Okay, it is frightening, but as marketers, you need to see it. If you've not seen it, you'll see it on Netflix. It's essential viewing for marketers, and it explains how social media manipulates people without them even knowing. How it's designed to addict people. Social media is designed to addict you, to want more, to lure you back, to give you more, to have the phone in your hand. It's designed, the algorithms are designed to do that. And this is all being exploited by a film called The Social Dilemma. It's a docudrama. And it explains how distrust of traditional information sources works, and how social media lies spread faster on social media, 6 times faster on Twitter than the truth does. And therefore, a business that's based upon profits, like Twitter or Facebook or any of these, has a vested interest, cannot survive if the lies aren't spreading faster. Well, the fact is it's growing and thriving from lies spreading faster. So there needs to be changes with the social media companies. They really need to take a hard look at their algorithms and the way they run their businesses. But certainly we've arrived at a place called post-truth. And post-truth is a horrible word that's emerged and is in our lives now forever and a day. Post-truth society. And that's because people don't trust traditional media, and partially social media has driven that. So have a look at this film, The Social Dilemma. It's a really brilliantly put together piece, and it's something everybody should be discussing now, not next year, now, and get into groups and discuss this and have sensible discussions. Moving on to technology, one of my favorite futurologists is Ray Kurzweil. Now, he's the guy who came up with the law of accelerating returns, which essentially said that you could take all the progress of the last 20th century and it squeeze it into the last 20 years. So 1980 to 2000, there was as much progress occurred in that last 20 years than did in the whole of the rest of the century. And then he said you can fast forward that to 2000 to 2014 and you get the same amount of progress again in 14 years. And he said that will reoccur between 2014 and 2021. So same amount of progress in that space of time. And we're seeing that as we move into AI, etc. And he forecasts that soon that same amount of progress will occur several times a year. And thereafter, it'll be several times a month. That quantum leap of progress. So where the curve went like that, it's now at a point of going like that. Now, we all know this is happening. So does Ray Kurzweil. He's definitely worth watching. Have a look at his YouTube talks and so on. And he kind of was involved in the development of the concept called singularity. And that is, when does artificial intelligence-driven robots become as good as humans? Now, at the moment, they can beat us at chess and all sorts of games, but they can't beat us at chess and at football at the same time. They're not able to do multiple tasks. But singularity is that moment when you can't really tell the difference between a human and a robot. And so that's not very far away. The estimates are getting quite close now, actually. And if you look at, again, my blog, you'll see me talking about AI chatbots, some beautiful chatbots that are really engaging and interesting. And we also explore things like AI, Internet of Things, mixed reality, and of course, the use of data. So all of these come in under the use of technology, combine them all. And, the world we're going to be living in is a far different one. So we have to understand that technology is nothing less than magic. If you just said, forget what's actually happening, but what it's doing would be considered magical a few years ago, which means, we have to be creative thinking about technology. Okay, so that's the background. I'm going to give it to you now in 10 minutes, just what my 3 tips would be to you. So we've kind of had a quick look at political, economic, social, and technological variables at play in the situation analysis. So what could we take from them, or how would I summarize any tips I could give you? So I've come up with 3 tips that will affect strategy and tactics. And the 3 tips are, one is to be more creative. We have all got to get creative, and we all are creative, actually, believe it or not. And there's exercises we can do. We can improve our creativity if we've got the guts to do so. And we've got to be more collaborative. It's a skill, as is creative thinking, a skill. And we've got to be more human. So let's go through these three in just 10 minutes. So be creative. Think outside the box. I'm sure you've heard the expression, so I'm not going to ask you to do this right now, but draw 4 straight lines to cut all 9 dots without lifting your pen off the paper. I'm sure you've all seen it before. Well, the answer is most people make the mistake of assuming that the problem is here, but it's not, or the challenge is here, it's not. And the solution certainly is not here in this space. It lies outside the box. So if we were to put 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, and 4 lines, bang, we've got the problem solved. And the way we did it was by thinking outside the box. So you folks have to get not just yourselves, but your teams to think outside the box. Encourage them to be creative. Encourage them to find new solutions. Find new ideas. Encourage new ideas. This is in Dublin. I was so impressed with this example in Dublin. A lady by the name of Karina Gaffey, just a lady, professional lady, realized that there were no more posters. If you look in the middle of that picture, you'll see there's a poster, an advertising poster that's blank. Well, they're blank all over the city of Dublin, Ireland, Dublin, where there were no ads. And blank posters look ugly and horrible and dull. And art, cities need art. We all need art. So she said, look, people, there's a wonderful photographic exhibition on, but then people were stopped from going to the gallery. So she thought outside the box and said, how about instead of people going to the gallery, you know what I'm going to say, we bring the gallery to the people. Beautiful thinking, this, thinking outside the box. She reversed it completely. She set up a little fundraising, a GoMe fund called, I think it was the Positive Space, and started the project called the Positive Space. And she raised a few grand just to pay for people to move the things from A to B and put them up. And she got all the photographs posted on posters around Dublin. It is the most beautiful idea and the most beautiful gallery brought to a city. And you can see it on my blog. You have a look at it on the blog. It's absolutely fantastic. And there's lots of people like the Grey Area Project involved who are constantly putting up stuff, making the city more beautiful, bringing art to the people. So encourage new ideas. Here's one I saw. I love this. This is an optician. And you know the way they got screens to protect the staff? Well, they made the screens big optician glasses. Well done to them. And people like it. They kind of, oh, it's like, people enjoy it. Be creative and save people as well. But this one just caught me. I think a Turkish garbage collector had opened a library with all the books people threw out in the trash. I mean, isn't that absolutely fantastic? So all of us can be creative, and you can. Your brain's like a muscle. It behaves like a muscle. It's not a muscle, but it behaves like one. You can do exercises to, play chess, play bridge, do Sudoku, exercise your brain, try to remember numbers. You can, and then there's lots of creative thinking techniques that we could actually do one day, maybe some creative thinking technique, a workshop on it, perhaps one day. So encourage new ideas and avoid boring cliche ads. Oh, the ads I see on television, I've got a whole roll of them. And they all say, oh, during this difficult time, we're here for you. If another person tells me they're here for me, I'm going to shoot them. Boring cliche ads are dreadful, and they don't have to be boring. Be creative and be positive. Now, positive is an important one, and you're going to have to get yourself to be positive. Now, social media hasn't done us any good because it tends to make us a bit negative and spread negative rumors. Maybe in the questions, Amira, maybe somebody might remind me to talk about Socrates' 3 filters if we have time, but
yes.
we might have time to see.
Okay, sure.
And most importantly, be flexible. Okay, so to be flexible, you're going to have to be creative. So all those companies that restaurants, they've got to be flexible. People won't come to the restaurants, so they've got to now drive the food to the people. So we've got to be flexible. People are working from home. You've got to be flexible about this. So flexibility is an important one as part of being creative. So that's number 1, be creative. Number 2 is be collaborative. Now we've talked about stakeholder capitalism, which says you're dealing with communities that are as important as your customers. And by the way, if you help your communities, which you should be doing, if you can help your communities, that maintains your awareness. You're allowed to wear your T-shirt. You're allowed to stick your name on the side of your van. You're allowed to tell people, is it okay to put the poster there? This is from us. It builds and maintains awareness. And also, collaborative means partnerships. Think of not just communities and staff, but think of partnerships. Unusual partnerships. I saw Starbucks were struggling with their coffee sales have gone down in China. So they've made a partnership with Alipay, which gives them access to 900 million audience for pre-ordering coffees and pick up coffees. Their sales have gone whoop like that. So there's partnerships, particularly Internet of Things. I think there's potential partnerships there to be creative, and pick up with partners that you might never have dreamt of, but who are serving your customers, and by adding your services to them, actually add value for everybody. It's a win-win-win. So think about collaborative partnerships as well. Now, this is one of my favorite companies in the world. I would say this, wouldn't I? Because I've been advised, well, a small bit of advice I've been giving them for about 10 years. And they're called Mainstream Renewable Power. They're the biggest renewable energy company in the world, defined by public tenders won. And they're a Dublin-based company. And I'm so proud of them because from day number one, they never accepted they had customers. They said they have stakeholders. They have communities that are as important to them. If they build turbines, they need to make sure people are okay about building turbines and they don't upset them, and that they'll support them. They'll help them with their education and whatever else they'll do. And they're big on that. And they work with regulators, they work with communities, they work with their staff, really important, et cetera, et cetera. And then they've investors, and then they've got people that kind of get involved in projects. So they're stakeholders. They're a really clever stakeholder company. But this one caught my eye. I love this. So this is in Senegal. Excuse me. They've used the wind turbine protective crates, the wood, to create desks and employ local businesses to make desks in the Senegal area. Senegal joint venture with Lekela Power. Isn't that clever? So the wooden crates that bring the big wind turbines are actually recycled and reused and to deliver really practical and useful desks. Another division of Mainstream Renewable Power, I just love the way they look at it. They say COVID has life impacting impacts. So they see COVID as their problem because it affects their customers, it affects their communities. It's their people, their customers and their communities and their staff are their people. This is marketing, thinking about stakeholder capitalism. And this is what and no wonder they are, the number one in the world now, Mainstream Renewable Power. So good luck to them. Thirdly, be human. Now, sometimes in business we get a bit greedy and screw the customer, get the prices up when the time is right, and so on. So, well, now we're seeing actually maybe that's a short-term approach. Let's be human again. Let's bring back the human values that have kind of been lost in business. Let's bring back the decency of kindness. And I look at people who work in the front line, like this hospital in Dublin. Hugely impressive. But if you're a patient and you're looking at people in masks, it's kind of scary. So somebody said, why don't we put our photograph of what we actually look like? People can see what they're dealing with here. I thought, wow, the humanity of that. Just a simple idea. Isn't it beautiful? So, when we talk about being human, there is an opportunity here for all of you businesses to kind of help your customers and help your communities, help your staff as well, and help local health services. There's an opportunity to help. Now, I'm very taken by an American writer, Mark Schaefer. He writes for Forbes, and his books are terrific. And I asked him for his permission to reproduce his manifesto for human-centric marketing. Now, he came out with this over a year ago, way ahead of the time, really. But it's a beautiful piece, and it'll be in the document I send you, so you can look at it again. But in there, discover what customers love. Discuss what customers love. Be more compassionate. Compassion. Bring compassion back. Build trust into everything you do. Be relentlessly honest. The most human company wins. So if you want repeat business, and that's where your future is for most companies, be decent to customers. And it may not seem like it makes a lot of sense right now, but I'm going to give you a few examples. Audible Books, the audio books. Audible Books is offering free audiobooks to kids to help them with homeschooling. They're giving the stuff away free to help people. Deliveroo is giving away 500,000 meals to NHS workers, the National Health Service workers. U-Haul is offering free storage for college students who are struggling with moving from A to B and gathering the stuff up. A distillery is turning waste alcohol into free sanitizer, and they're giving it away. The Body Shop, a well-known retail network, cosmetics and so on, donated 225,000, almost 250,000 toiletry items to NHS workers. So what we're discovering here, that brands with purpose, grow, actually, and companies with purpose last, and people with purpose thrive. Now that's Unilever actually saying, actually, this purpose thing is really important. What is our purpose? It's to help customers and communities and stakeholders. And I'm going to mention to you the Age of Human, which is a wonderful group that's just started, and you could join it if you want. You get it on LinkedIn, the Age of Human, or the ageofhuman.org. You'll find it. Chris Wood set it up, and it's a really interesting group to have a look at. They've developed something that I think is quite powerful. And so I say Chris Wood, sorry, Steve Woods actually set it up, and it's a wonderful operation. It's about being more human, with lots of ideas of how to go about being more human. And here's a couple of examples for you. This is a local flower shop. Nobody's buying her flowers, so she goes to the local hospital and leaves a bunch of flowers on every single health worker's bonnet. And if you're advertising, don't be doing those "we're here for you" ads, please. They're dreadful. You try to think about what's really human. And here's one that I thought was fantastic. This is just so true and powerful. Be human. And some ads are, if you're giving away stuff, you can announce that you're giving away. Here's a little ad saying we're giving our chocolates away to the NHS. So you are allowed to tell people that you're doing great things if you are doing great things. That's okay. So this quote I'm going to finish now is from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the author of The Little Prince. And this film is on Netflix, The Little Prince, and I recommend you see it. It's a beautiful film. But it says, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up the people to gather the wood, divide the wood, and give orders. Instead, teach your staff or teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. Get the passion, get the purpose in there amongst your team. Be human. It comes back to being human. So to summarize what we've been talking about in the last little while is, we looked at situation analysis, the pest factors that are changing the market and will continue to change the market, the post-COVID market that you're going to be operating in, and start to make plans to do things. Start being more creative, encouraging creativity, encouraging collaboration, and being human. It's okay to be human. And it feels nice to be nice. It really does. And did you know there is a Harvard Medical School piece of work that shows that loneliness kills, but feeling good or helping communities makes us happier, and this makes us live longer. That's an 80-year-old Harvard study published in 2017, proves that helping your community makes you happier, makes you live longer, and I can tell you now, it will help you when the recovery comes.